In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to break down the bench press all the way from the toes to the fingertips, so every single little movement that's involved in it. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to set up your foot position. So there's a variety of ways of doing this. One way is to flare your feet out wide so your heels are on the ground, but they're about to come off. But what you're doing is you're driving the middle of your foot into the ground as hard as you can. Another way you can do this is to pull your toes all the way back underneath you. And this is good for people who are trying to get an arch in their back and they have trouble doing it with flat heels. But one of the tricks when you have your feet back like this is to actually grip the bench with your thighs and squeeze them together. This is going to provide a more stable base to press from. One thing you don't want to do when you're benching is to move your feet at all once they're planted. Once they're planted, they are down. There's no dancing, there's no tapping, there's no movement of the feet at all because you want to have a stable base to press from. All right, so now that your foot position is figured out, what you're going to do is you're going to set up your glutes, your butt, your ass cheeks. All right, so the idea is to, once you have your feet planted, so I'm going to do the heels down because that's what I like to do. And you get in position, so what you're going to do is you're going to tighten your glutes. So you're going to imagine there's a walnut in between your ass cheeks, and you're going to crush that walnut together with your butt. And that's going to provide even more stabilization to the lower half to get you set up for leg drive. So what leg drive is the push that you give from your legs. So your legs are already down in the position. So when you're down in the position and your feet are on the floor and your butt cheeks are together, what leg drive is essentially is pushing even harder during the middle of the rep with your legs, and almost your butt will start to try to come off the bench. But what happens is you stay so tight and your butt cheeks are squeezing together so hard that it actually does not lift up off the bench, but this provides you with extra momentum in the direction of your press. So the next part of the press is core tightness. So your abs. So when you're down, your feet are down, now your butt cheeks are together, and the next thing you're going to do is you're going to tighten your core, right? So you're going to squeeze your abs as hard as you can. Now, the thing about the bench press is it should never be comfortable. It should be uncomfortable. You don't just get up and lay down and then press because you have a weak base. You have no stabilization. So you have feet, butt together, squeeze the walnut with your ass cheeks, and then tighten your abs. You can hear that I really can't talk because that's what it should sound like. The next part of the setup cue is the arch. So a lot of people you'll see in the gym, they'll create an arch with their back. So if you come over here, actually just walk over here, get a good side angle. Hello. Okay.
Hello.
So feet down. Butt cheeks together. Squeeze the abs. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your shoulder blades, right? Drive them up, back, and down. And now you'll see, you'll be able to get a full arm underneath my back, and this is going to provide even more stabilization for your press, because what you're doing is you are essentially digging your back into the bench, making it so you can't rock. See, if you're loose, you can kind of rock and wiggle, but if you're tightened down, there's no movement here. Okay. A lot of the times in the gym, you'll see people bench pressing and their head will come up off the bench. Now, this is a very unsafe thing to do. Your head should be driven into the bench along with your traps. So when you're down in the press, your traps are in, and your head should be in a straight line with the rest of your back. The only arch should be in your back down here, the part where you can get your arm through. Your head should stay planted on the bench, because as soon as you come up, you're going to lose that momentum. See, look what happens to my arms. They tilt forward. So if your head's back, you're going to be able to press in that diagonal line towards your face. And if you remove that, you're going to be a lot weaker on the bench press. So the next part about the bench press is where to line up your eyes. So when you get to the bench press and you do your whole setup, it's where do your eyes fall underneath the bar on the rack. So ideally, you want the bar to be in a path where it's not going to hit the clips, right? So generally, somewhere in the neighborhood between your chin and your forehead is where the bar should line up when you go to unrack it. Now, once your setup has gotten to this point where your eyes are under the bar or wherever's comfortable for you, what you're going to do is you're going to take a grip that is wide enough so your arm forms a 90-degree angle. What I mean by this is when you go down to press and your arms tuck, your wrist should always line up with your elbow. If that is out of alignment, you're going to bleed power and have a weaker bench press. So here we go. We're going to set it up like this. Right about here for me. Now, the next part of this is you're going to squeeze the bar as if you were trying to make a dent in it. You want to squeeze the bar as hard as you possibly can. Now, when you unrack, you're still squeezing the bar. And another point to make is your wrists should always be straight. You do not want your wrists to sag back during the middle of your bench press because you will bleed power and ultimately injure yourself in the end. So, important thing about the bench press is to understand that when you press it, it's not a straight movement. What you're actually doing is you're benching at a slight angle back towards your face. So when you bring the bar down, you want to bring the bar down to a point where you are essentially tucking your elbows into your lats and bringing it down controlled, right? So I'll show you what that looks like. Do the whole setup, get everything nice and tight, squeeze the bar, unrack. So what you're doing is you're bringing the bar down lower, tucking your elbows. And then you're going to explode back up towards your face. So the important reason for the arch is it creates a smaller bar path. So you don't have to, or a smaller range of movement, I should say. So when you're bringing the bar down to the arch, you're bringing it to the highest point of your chest. So when you have to push back up, you don't have to push back extremely far. If you have a flat, caved-in back and your chest is forward and everything's hunched forward, your range of motion is going to be a lot longer. Therefore, you're not going to be able to handle as much weight when you're doing the bench press. So now I talked about tucking your elbows in on the way down and the bar path going towards your face. So the way this is going to happen is your elbows are actually going to have to flare out at some point, and it's kind of like an art of timing. So when you're in the middle of the press, what you're going to do is you're going to bring the bar down to the highest point, which might not even be your chest, it actually might be your sternum, wherever the highest point of your chest is. So your arms are tucked into your lats, you're nice and tight, your back is still tight, but as you press up, you're not going to be able to press up in a straight line comfortably if your arms are still tucked. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to slowly, right, and systematically flare out your elbows as it comes up higher. So essentially you're a loaded spring and you're coming out and pressing up towards your face. Okay, so putting it all together, let's do it from the very top. So first thing, feet. Set up your feet. Get them nice and comfortable and stay tight. Next part, your butt cheeks. Crush the walnut. All right. Now, flex your abs so you can't talk. Pull your shoulder blades up, down, and back. Bar is right in line with my eyes. All right. Now we're going to squeeze the bar as hard as we can. And unrack. Now, this is what the rep should look like with the leg drive and the arch included, and the lat tuck, and also driving it towards your face. In conclusion of this video, we want to focus on a few things. So number one, being tight is extremely important throughout the bench press because you will bleed power otherwise. And you want to keep everything nice and strong and tight, especially your wrists. That's one of the most important things I've had to work on, is keeping your wrists in a straight line and also keeping your core tight. Now you'll see a lot of people in the gym who have the wrist wraps over their wrists because this prevents any sort of movement of the wrist. And you'll also see people bench with belts on. Now you don't actually need either one of these things as long as you can practice, keeping your wrist straight and keeping your core tight. But overall, if you incorporate some of these methods into your bench press, it will improve over time and you'll see your numbers go up. And remember, stay uncomfortable on the bench press because that's what's going to make you stronger in the end. Jesus. You can't laugh in the background while I'm talking.
I know. Sorry, I didn't know we were doing this for real. Okay, I'm ready.
Because if you laugh in the video, I'm going to flip out.